If you click on your microphone little arrow and you go to audio settings, you can go and drop down under microphone, pick a microphone that's on your system. You might have multiple.
There's like not even a microphone icon there. Yeah. So if you, do you have a microphone on this computer?
It may be built into the webcam. You may have to select it by going to, do you have a little microphone in the bottom left corner of the Zoom?
While we're fiddling with this, I'm going to go ahead and start letting people in, admitting everybody.
Okay.
And that way we can kind of work on the technical details. Okay. Well, while we're fiddling with this, I just kind of want to welcome everybody that's in the audience, especially those that are joining us for the first time. We're having a little bit of a technical snafu here. Jennifer can't find her microphone. So kind of makes it hard to do a podcast and interview without a microphone. So we're working on that. So please be patient for a moment. We'll get this figured out.
Hey, Jennifer, can you hear us? Like, can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us? You can't even hear us?
Hear anything?
Oh, how'd she know about doing thumbs up?
Hey, can you call me?
You know, she can call me. No, well, let's see. Hold on. I'm going to call her. Or I'm calling you.
Yeah, give her a call and then see if you can walk her through the, she's going to have to go into her audio settings because it sounds like either she had earbuds in maybe like from last time or.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me mute my phone.
Is there even a little microphone at the bottom left corner? Were you able to push that out on Facebook?
Let's see. Let me see if we can get this going on Facebook.
Okay, Corey, you just go ahead and call her.
All right.
I'm no help. She's waiting for you.
Oh, did you send me her number?
Oh, she said you guys are friends on Facebook, so you should be able to message her.
Oh, okay.
All right. Sorry, everybody. We will get this one way or the other.
It will happen. So did you
Okay.
check out the Facebook stream?
All right. I think we've got the Facebook stream going. If anybody in the audience is able, could somebody please check Facebook and see if it is working properly? Just to make sure, since we seem to be having so many wonderful technical difficulties going on at the moment.
I don't see the little Facebook icon up there.
So those of us, everybody that's just joining, we are having a problem. Jennifer cannot get her microphone working. So even though we have officially technically started, we have not quite started yet. So Corey is on the phone with her at the moment trying to get this working. Hey, Shasta, let's see. Let's see.
Is that Jennifer making all that noise?
That's Shasta.
Oh, Shasta.
Yeah, please make sure you have your microphones on mute if you can. That would be great.
That was a pretty good jam though you had there, Shasta.
Yes. So I think as we're kind of sitting here trying to get this working with Jennifer, I mean, we can kind of talk a little bit about tonight's topic and sort of what the expectations are around it. I
Yeah.
think the goal is, while Corey won't be able to help us out in this discussion because he's currently doing tech support, I think the idea is to kind of make this not crass or gross or anything like that, but just to have an open and honest discussion about how things look in the LDS dating world and what that entails as far as sex. A lot of people sort of have an issue with discussing sex, whether it should be discussed, whether it should not be discussed, and if it should be discussed, how much. So we're certainly going to get to know Jennifer. We're going to talk with her and find out kind of a little bit about her story. But for those of you who are unaware in the audience, the reason we have this topic with Jennifer tonight, in part, obviously it's an important topic, but in part, Jennifer has worked with stake presidencies and done presentations to youth in the church on sexuality and where that fits in and how what its place and role is in the church and in relationships. So we figured, if she has experience with this on a church level, to some degree or another, it would be good to have somebody who's got some experience discuss it more in depth with us. So now, provided that discussion can only happen if we can figure out how to make the audio work on her end. So
And it looks like the Facebook stream isn't working either.
the Facebook stream is not working. Okay, hold on. We're trying it now. We'll see if this works. I think I forgot to press one button. So.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
Okay, now I think, wait, it says it's setting it up. So.
Cool. Now yep.
Jennifer logged out. Let's see. Maybe she's switching to her laptop. Maybe. The funny thing is she's always on, usually on the after parties, and her stuff works just fine then. So. All right, great. Thanks, Brent.
Oh, cool. Wait,
okay.
We've got
so
two.
Jennifer, let's see.
Your iPad.
Oh, you got your iPad. Can you hear us? We still can't hear Jennifer. Okay. I can see your mouth moving, and it does show, at least now it shows a icon for a microphone.
We also have a pro at Zoom in the audience if need be.
Oh.
Send you the name if we need to have some more tech support.
All right, great. I don't know. It's funny that we always seem to be able to get these working, and it works just fine until that moment when you need it. Then, of course, karma hits and nothing works. So.
I know. It's a bummer.
Yep. Well, Corey's still on the phone with her. Let's see. It's showing Jennifer. Can you hear us, Jennifer?
You just can't.
Okay, you can hear us. We just can't hear you for some reason.
Right.
In the bottom left for your microphone, is there an option to change it to, like, I don't know, maybe you have your AirPods in or something? No?
Well, we've got someone who gets paid the big bucks to do it, so maybe we should have that individual try to help her out.
So, okay, fair enough. So Eric asks, in the interest of bridging the gap, let's hear your plans, thoughts for Valentine's Day. Well, so Valentine's Day, we're hoping to have kind of a special show. We're still waiting to hear back for 100% certainty on the couple that will be joining us, but it will be potentially our biggest show yet if we do it. we've got a pretty, I'll say, somewhat star-studded lineup set to go. If we can pull it off, it'll be really awesome if we can get the couple that we're wanting to have come on. She's agreed. Not Tom Brady. We would never have Tom Brady on. Tom Brady is not allowed on the show. That's blasphemy. Not a Tom Brady fan. Anyways, she has agreed. She thinks he would agree too, but she just needs to double check and verify with him. So what we're kind of looking to do for Valentine's Day is have a couple that will come on and kind of discuss their relationship. And this is a couple, some of you may know, you may not know all about their kind of interesting lives. I know her fairly well. I don't know him. I know about him because of who he is, but I won't say any more than that until we get them on the show. But it will be definitely one you're going to want to tune in for. So by the way, just while we're kind of going through this and trying to get this working on Jennifer's end, which is hilarious. I have no idea. Jennifer works. She's like on the podcast all the time and it always works. But now that we've got her as the guest, nothing works, of course. So what we're looking to do is just kind of have, I completely lost my train of thought on this one. Celeste, help me out. On Valentine's Day, we're looking to have these guys on and just kind of discuss how they met,
Right.
what's going on in their life, what makes their relationship so special.
Right.
I can tell you that it's been a journey for this couple with some very highs and very lows. I don't want to say any more than that. I'll let them kind of discuss that. But I think that's the relationship or the story of just about any relationship, right? So.
And then I'm sure we'll do some sort of game where they can see how well they know each other.
Well, of course. I mean, we've got to put them to the test.
Have that in there.
We've got to put them to the test.
Yep.
So definitely don't miss out on Sunday if you can at all help it. I know that a lot of you probably have plans for Valentine's Day, or some of you may, some of you might not, but this will not be one that you're going to want to miss. By the way, I remember what I was going to say. It's been I've been in Microsoft team meetings like forever. So it's been a long time, all day today. So my brain's a little bit scattered at the moment. So please forgive me on that, but please give us a like on Facebook. Also give us a subscribe on YouTube for those of you who can. We're going to be uploading these to YouTube much quicker now. We've kind of got some of the kinks worked out that we're sort of preventing some of those before, and we're hoping to get those past videos uploaded quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. We're hoping to get those done quickly, but yeah, our hands are a little tied.
They are
on that to some degree or another. So Corey, how are we looking? What's going on with Jennifer?
She's not here.
So she's trying to come back in on her iPad that had the microphone working, but it turned out that she answered my messenger call also on the iPad. So I think the messenger was holding the mic, was not letting the mic work. So she's coming back in on her iPad. I just let her in. I don't know where she's at. Here she is. So unmute. Let's see, start video. Let's see if she comes up.
You see?
Oh my gosh, we can see you and hear you. Wow.
Oh, that was the problem. That was the problem, is that we were using the mic on Messenger and then.
Okay, gotcha. Well, darn it. Like the lighting's not the best here. So let me just switch gears here.
Sure.
Make sure your iPad's plugged in.
No, I mean, I'm good on the iPad, but so.
That's a bummer.
You guys have covered some really good stuff while I was trying to get in.
Oh yeah, it's all covered now. Everybody's all schooled up on sex ed. So.
Oh, right. Good. We can end it right now.
Right. It gave us a chance to talk all kinds of dirt and get all the gossip like out for everybody right off the bat. So
there you go.
We've come to the consensus that sex is bad, only used for procreation. So we're all set.
Right.
Oh, you know what? Then I have a whole lot to redo then.
Right. Well, okay. So, technological snafu, we're starting a little late, but all the same, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to finally have you in the hot seat tonight. We've had you plenty of times in the after party and had some good conversations there, but this is the chance for everybody to kind of, get the chance to know you a little bit about your background. I did let people know that one of the reasons we're talking about sex some tonight is that you have some experience on a church level with this topic. So having said that, welcome and tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you at? What's your status? How do we get to where you're at now? Tell us your story.
Okay, well, it's, a little bit of a story, but obviously we have a little bit of time. So, grew up in California, and so that's a little bit of a background. And then attended Brigham Young, and I went to college there, got married. I went to college actually at 17, so I was young. Wow. And then I got married at 19. After twice, my dad said no, he couldn't marry me. And so we got married at the end of my sophomore year. And then at the end of when we graduated, I had a baby a week later, and we moved to the New York City area a week after that. And then we lived back in New York City for 18 years and had 5 more children. So we had 6 children in 11 years. And
wow.
So it was busy, quick. And so people say, oh my gosh, you look so young. Well, I had my kids quick. And so I can't even see. Oh, there you go. And so then we lived back there 18 years, and most of it was actually, bumps and bruises along the way, but pretty good. And then we kind of left New York City, overnight, let's say, kind of a rough exit from New York City. And then we moved back to Utah to basically try to figure out, everything that we had experienced in New York City. And then we got divorced. Was it 2016? So it's been a minute. And then when we got divorced, I remarried actually in 2018 for a minute. And I call it my trial. And I call it my trial because that's exactly what it was a trial. And here I am. I have only 2 kids left, 1 on the way out and only 1 a senior. And I'm still young because I had my kids young. And I have 3 kids that are married, and I'm single right now. And I have 4 grandchildren. And that is kind of where I'm at right now. And so we can actually go from there.
Were you a grandma in your 40s?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. That's what happens when you start young, right?
Well, I started at 22, but I got some stubborn sons that have not gotten married yet. So I'm bummed that I'm not a grandpa.
Oh, so I was egging them on. I was like, come on, guys. No, we have 4 right now. I have 3 children that are married right now, and then 4 grandchildren of the 3. So
now there's so many things of what you said in your intro that spark questions, and I'm sitting here. I should start taking notes like, okay, I got to ask her about that. But the first thing I want to ask is, what's up with your dad telling your first husband no twice?
Okay.
What's going on with that? Was he just like, no, she's too young? Or is he like, I don't like this guy at all? Or what's the story behind it?
Okay, so that's actually a great question because I come from a divorced family, and my dad has never been a member of the church, and is very, very liberal. And so when I was home, I went home for the summer from BYU, and I was dating my husband, or the person I was dating. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine, just picture this, and some of you can, some of you can't, but he went to the front door and asked to meet with my dad. It was 100-degree weather in the middle of summer in San Diego. And I was gone, and he was in a suit and tie. My dad is in shorts, holding a scotch and whiskey on the rocks and out by the pool. And he went in and said, "Can I meet with you?" And then asked to marry me. And my dad said, "Absolutely not. She's too young. She has to finish school. And why don't you guys live together?" And so that is coming from a non-member background. And he said, "We can't do that." And so we went from there. That was a no. That was an absolute no.
That was
And
not
so
going to happen.
That
No,
was not going to happen.
Was he a return missionary? So today
Yes.
he was like, yeah, no, that's not how we do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, anyways, my dad, like I said, he's very liberal and never been a member of the church, doesn't understand it at all. And so that was an absolute no. So.
Gotcha. Okay. So now he did this twice. Was it the same reasoning twice though, where he's just like, no, I told you before, she's too young? Or
Yes, actually, the second time it was. The third time he went in, and we were 6 months later down the road, and he said, we're going to be at the end of our sophomore year. Again, I was only going to be 18 because I started college early. And so my dad still said, "You know what? Okay, well, if she's going to be at the end of her sophomore year, then okay, I'll say yes." And so at the end of my sophomore, and that was 2 days, or actually the day after the term ended at BYU in April, we got married. So that was a yes.
So it's interesting that even though your dad said no, you weren't stubborn to the point where you're like, I don't care, we're going to do it anyway.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I'm surprised y'all weren't like, hey, peace out. We're going to go do it anyway.
But you know what? We had gone to our stake president at the time, which happened to be his uncle at the time in San Diego. And the uncle said, "You know what? When you marry somebody, you marry their family. And so you really need to try to get on the best foot forward." And so that's why we waited. And so it was hard. Let me just tell you, it was hard. And so
how long was it in between the first time he asked to the time you guys get married? Like, what kind of time span are we talking here?
About 10 months.
Okay. So we're not talking like 2 years or something where he's like,
you're like, 10 months is a long time in like.
Oh yeah, you know what?
Well, right. I mean,
that was years to me at the time, and probably more years to him at the time. So
yeah, well, I mean, it could be worse. He could be waiting 7 years and then accidentally like pull a fast one and get your sister or something.
Well, no, there's no way. My sister was not an option.
Unless he wanted to go to jail, right?
Right.
No, my sister was just not an option.
So you guys are on good terms now. I think you had mentioned this once before, right?
Yeah, we're on great terms. Actually, I spoke to him today about the podcast today. So.
Is he going to join us?
The audience? Is he watching?
Actually, I would have loved to, but he had surgery today.
Oh.
And so I called him before and I just said, "I'm doing a podcast tonight and I'm going to mention your name and I'm going to talk about some of our history." And we talked about it and he's so good with it. I mean, we're on really great terms. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I think that's great for the kids too, because it just.
And maybe it's because he was under the influence of medicine, but I don't know.
So didn't you say that there was a time when it wasn't so kosher? Like you guys have come to a place where you've getting along, right?
Well, I don't think that any divorce, actually, anyone that has been through divorce, I don't think that you just say, "Oh my gosh, let's shake hands and let's get divorced and everything's great." Mm-hmm. And we had been married for 26 years. And so that's a long time. And with 6 kids, with a lot of history. And so, yeah, it was not amicable in the beginning. And now I would consider him, I think it's mutual that we would consider each other really good friends. And it is actually very, very amicable. So
that's great.
That's good.
Yeah.
So now you ended up going to New York, I'm assuming for his work, right?
Yes. Well, actually, he got a job offer, and he is, and this is kind of a good backstory. He's half Polynesian. And so he got an offer to either go to Hawaii or to go to New York City. And he came to me and said, oh my gosh, you know what? We got this offer right out of BYU. It's going to be great. We can go either place. We're going to go to Hawaii and live. And I just stopped and I said, I don't know any Fortune 500 companies in Hawaii. We are not going to Hawaii. We're not going to live on the beach. We're taking life serious. We're going to New York City. And so that was
500 company. Are you saying that you wanted him to work for a Fortune 500 company?
No. I just wanted him to be in that atmosphere. I didn't want him. We were not going to Hawaii to live on the beach. We were early in our career, and I knew enough to know that there was not going to be a future for us in Hawaii. And for him, yeah, there's a lot of Polynesian relatives there, but it was not going to be our future. And so
Hawaii
I
is the
said,
middle of nowhere.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like, we can get a great tan in Hawaii, but we're not going to Hawaii to build a future. And so we ended up moving to New York City. So.
And it sounds like you may have at some point kind of on your way out regretted that to some degree or another. What happened?
Actually, not at all. Not at all. I would live there right now if I could.
Oh.
So you said that you came back to Utah and you guys had to sort out your experiences in New York. Was there not something that went bad there or something?
No, actually, you know what? We were in New York City, and he was working on Wall Street in New York City, and he was very successful there, and had a great reputation, and got involved in a Ponzi scheme here in Utah.
Oh.
And that
What year was that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all over the news, so anyone can look it up. But that was 2008, 2009.
Okay.
And so it came when the market crashed in 2009. And so we ended up coming back to Utah because the Ponzi scheme happened actually in Utah. And so we had to come back here to deal with all of that. So
now, when your ex was caught up in this, was he a part of it, or he was unwittingly caught up as kind of like, you know, unbeknownst to him, he's part of this whole scheme, and then the whole thing just collapses?
Well, it's interesting that you say, I mean, the phrase of that is different because he was not on any of the paperwork, so he didn't have to serve jail time, but he was a financial advisor at the time, and he was the largest financial advisor that was feeding money into the fund. And so while he didn't have a signed document in his name, he still had a part to play. And so the guy that was running it went to federal prison for 12 years. Actually, he just barely got out, I actually think, federal prison. And my ex, he was just, there was a clawback for him. And so a lot of money and a lot of lawsuits. And that was kind of the beginning of our divorce.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So he actually, I mean, obviously it sounds like he knew what was going on, although he
actually
prosecuted.
And I mean, like, I mean, we're friends now, and I don't mean to defend what happened because a lot of things went down, and I feel like I overheard things because we spent a lot of time, and he met with his clients out of our house. And so I went to him and I said, this doesn't sound right. And there's a lot of money coming into our account. What's going on? And so while I don't think, if you were to know him, he's a really great, and he's a really nice guy. But he did have all his licenses, and he, anyone that is going to get that return should know the difference. And so, while I don't think that he would necessarily be involved in a quote unquote Ponzi scheme, I do think that anyone that has their financial licenses would know the difference. And so
I think it gets hard when you're talking about large sums of money. It's almost like a drug to some people, probably to a lot of us, I would imagine. And for those of us who would say like, oh, I'd never do that. I think once you get in that situation and there's just more and more money rolling in and you're like, I could be in real trouble here. So I'm just going to kind of keep playing this game and hope that like the bow doesn't break, that everything just stays kosher.
Well, and you know what, he had been doing this this, I don't want to say Ponzi scheme, but this fund for about 8 years prior to the market dropping. And prior to that, there was a lot of money to be made, but he really didn't have to. He was fine with his own financial firm, that he really didn't have to be involved in that. But I think that there was great trips, there was great perks, there was great benefits to all of that. And so it just kept going. And so I think that he got caught up in it. And I'm not making excuses for him. Obviously, we're divorced. But I do think that he is really a stand-up guy. He is really a great guy. And so I think that he got caught up in something that he really did not know really what the outcome was going to be. And then when the market crashed, then everything dropped. And that's when the whole Ponzi scheme got caught out. So.
Gotcha. Well, and while you guys were together though, I mean, I'm going to kind of shift away from that for a little bit. We don't want to.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Your ex's indiscretions or anything that went down on that. So.
Nope, you're good.
When you guys were together,
yes,
one thing that you've told us before in the after party, and that is that you guys and your sex life was very robust to the point that your stake president came to you and asked you to specifically talk to the youth about this.
Yes.
So I think if the stake president came to me, he's like, hey, I would like you to have a discussion about sex with the youth, I would say, okay, tell them not to do it. Don't do it before marriage. Like, I just wouldn't want to talk about it. I'd probably shy away from that topic. So how did you get wrapped up in that? I mean, obviously you're not going to your stake president like, we have a great sex life. He's like, oh, really? Well, since you do, would you like to talk to the youth about it? Like, how do you get to that point where you're in that place, I guess?
Actually, that's a really great question because nobody would sign up for that for sure.
I know.
And so, yeah. And so what ended up happening is I got married at 19 and he was off his mission. And so we kind of got into everything fresh off. We were newlyweds, we were young, and so we kind of evolved, I would say. And I say that because I got married at 19, graduated at 21, had a baby a week after graduation, and then moved to New York City a week after that. And then within the next, I had 6 kids in 11 years. And so we just had kids. We knew we wanted 6 and I wanted them young. And so sex was not always great. I'm going to be so honest and open about that. And I totally am open about that. And, but as we got further along in our marriage and we kind of grew together, I should say grew apart and grew together, we learned that there were nights where he would come to bed and it was like a him and ha, oh my gosh, I'm going to totally, talk to her and see if she's in the mood. And it was like innuendos.
Headache sort of thing.
Oh, well, not even that. Come on. If you're like 7 months pregnant, yeah, you're going to have a headache. And so
I've never been 7 months pregnant, so I couldn't tell you.
You're going to have a headache and your feet are going to hurt and your stomach hurts and everything hurts.
Exactly. And
What?
so,
You're not interested in sex? Come on.
yeah. And so I think that there's like the give and take. And I think that through that, we realized that there were nights that it was, oh my gosh, is he in the mood? I'm tired. There was no communication. And we were young. And so the further we got along in our marriage, we had talked to another couple and they said that they went through the same thing. And so what we did is we did what we called on and off nights. And on and off nights were every other night was on or off. And so there was no guessing. It was on the on nights, it was off on the off nights. On the off nights, I could lay naked and I could watch TV all night and no one was going to touch me and I was going to be good. And then on the on nights, it was on and there was no like back and forth. And so I think as we went further down in our marriage, we realized that the on nights became more special in that I personally, I mean, it's different for guys and girls. And so for me and having all these kids and all these responsibilities at home, he would come home from work. Yeah, of course, he's going to want sex. And I'm going to be tired because I'm dealing with all these children. But no, I planned my day differently. And so on the on nights, it was, no, I mean, what am I going to wear tonight? Like, I'm going to put the kids to bed early. I'm going to make a special dinner. We're going to go out tonight. And so it was planned. And so we ended up scheduling on and off nights. And it wasn't just, oh, we're going to go out and have dinner and we're going to come home and go to bed. No, he was going to make sure that he was taken care of. And in return, I think that that's when I learned to really enjoy sex. And I'm going to be totally blunt. And that is because when you're having children as a woman, it's different again for men and women because the responsibilities might be different. They might be the same depending on your role. But for us, I was a stay-at-home mom. And so I dealt with the kids. I dealt with the home. I dealt with the kids. I dealt with the finances. And he was at work and he would come home and it was what's for dinner and what about sex? And so I had to plan for that. And he was providing. And in turn, I was like, how can I plan my day differently so I can enjoy my evening with my husband? And I have to say that it worked. The on and off night was, while it sounds really scheduled to a lot of people, I mean, let's just back up for a second. If you're going to go play football, there's rules to the game. Everyone's not going to put a helmet and pads and go onto the field and nobody's going to have any rules or guidelines. And so for us, we had guidelines and we had how we were going to execute our evening or our day. I mean, it wasn't all about the evening. There were times where he might have an easy day and I would get a babysitter and we were gone. We would head to the city for a day or a night out and we were gone, but it was scheduled. And that is when we really got to know each other. And still, we were young.
What happens if you guys are in the mood on an off day though?
Oh,
like, did y'all like get a break?
Oh,
Nope.
an off day, if we're both in the mood on an off day, it's like double on. I mean, like, it is like,
Well, at least you had that as another rule. Like,
oh no,
Yeah, I
hey,
was gonna say you can't be so like okay, it's an off day, so I can't do this. But if you guys are both okay
no,
with it,
it's
Maybe you
It's
could use that day to like build up that tension or something like, oh man,
No.
we're so ready for it, but wait for tomorrow, kind of thing.
no, and
Well, that's
and
good.
I think I like those questions because I think some of the rules to the way we lived our life was if he traveled, every day that he left was an on day. And I wanted to make sure that when he was on the road, in hotels in the city, that I still was his focus. And when he returned home, so the day he left was an on day and the day he returned was always an on day. And so those were our rules. And then every other day was an on and off. And then when we traveled together, oh, every day was an on day. Every
No
day
kids
was
to
an
deal
on day.
with.
Yeah. And so, and I think that, yeah, and so now back to going to talk to the youth. So that's how we grew together. And then we house sat. We lived in an area that was a very affluent area, and we were young at the time. And we house sat for our stake president. He wasn't our stake president at the time, but he was a very well-known person in the community, actually everywhere. He was well-known. And we would go and house sit for his kids while him and his wife traveled. And he would come back, and then eventually, 6-7 years down the road, he became our stake president. And he saw that we had grown together, and that he met with us and he said, how are you guys so comfortable? And at that time, we probably both had been in the youth, probably 15 years back there. And he was like, we had taught all his young men, young women, his youth, and we had babysat for them. And so he came to us and sat down with us, and he said, we have a real problem. And he said, our world is facing a time where these kids are coming across things that they're not used to seeing or hearing. And we need you guys to meet with the laurels and priests, because they're older. And we need you to be very, very candid with them. We are not going to have any of the leaders in there. He said he would be the only one in there. And he said, we want all the stake, laurels, and priests in there. And we want you guys to be absolutely so direct on every level. And we're like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? And he said, nope, you cannot be too explicit. And so we did our research, and what is out there right now for the youth is pretty incredible, actually. And I think that if you have youth and they're really open with you, then you would know that it's pretty overwhelming for them. And so we got into a room, and we had about probably 70 young men and young women together, and no adults, only our stake president and he and I, and my husband and I at the time. And we talked candidly with these kids, and we had them anonymously fill out question and answers. And they asked questions that they might have, that they've heard. We had words and sayings that they're faced with every single day that maybe even you and I might be uncomfortable with, but they hear every single day. And they were okay, I just heard a question. I just saw a question come in, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, they want to know, what is oral sex? What is oral sex? What does that mean? And so in this meeting in our stake center with these 70 youth and our stake president, we talked to them about oral sex. And it was very candid. And yes, the doors all creeped open, and you saw all these leaders and these parents like trying to listen in, and that's fine. We were very comfortable with it. And it's only because of the process that we had been through in our marriage, the on and off day. And actually, I mean, meetings with our bishop as a young couple, and I would go in and say, okay, what's okay, what's not okay? And and I said that to my ex today. I said, do you remember the conversations that we had? And he said, actually, I do. And he would say to us, you guys are married, and as a married couple, it's between you guys. It's not between anyone else. It's between you guys. And so,
now this was in New York, right? Just wanted to clarify. Was this?
Yep, this is in New York.
New York.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you
actually, it was in Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened to myself when I was first getting married. My wife at the time and I were listening to a church tape. Back in the day, you remember these talks, you can go to the church bookstore and get like these talks, and there was this one on marriage, and it was by this senior couple had done this talk. And in the talk, they had said that any sex besides the normal, like missionary style sex, was a perversion. And I started panicking because like my new bride and I were like doing it like all kinds of ways and like different positions. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're like committing a sin. And so we went to our bishop and we're like, we just have to know what's legal and what's not legal. And his comment was, whatever both of you are equally comfortable doing, you could do, but you both have to agree to it. And I said, exactly. So anything? And he said, anything you're both comfortable with. Obviously, he's not talking about threesomes and orgies and crazy stuff like that. He's talking like between you and your spouse, like, so.
And I think
I thought, wow, and here was false doctrine. This is a published tape by seniors, like a senior couple who came from a different generation, who's telling on a tape false doctrine, saying, hey, you got to have missionary style, and anything besides missionary style is a perversion and a sin.
Well, that's why it's important to actually listen to the church leaders versus people who are just LDS, because people who are just LDS are going to have their own versions of every commandment out there, right? The cultural commandments. So yeah, it's important to go to the leaders to find that answers.
Well, and I mean, you can imagine going to your bishop and saying, okay, bishop, like, we're wondering, like, what do you think about this? And he said, everything, if you're comfortable, just like Corey just said, if you're comfortable within your marriage, then that's great. It's between you guys. And that's all we needed to know. And so our role was every 6 months, something new. We're not going to do like just the missionary style. And you can imagine if you're doing that every 6 months over 26 years, you have a pretty great sex life at that time. And so, and every other day, on and off days, I mean, it ends up being pretty great. And so, which leads us to, I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid to.
That's important.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen comments. So the reason this topic came up is because we've seen, and Celeste and Everett and I, we kind of peruse the groups we're in, and we kind of read the comments, and there's people who have a lot of questions about sex. And there's a lot of false doctrine out there. There's a lot of people who have been like taught or not taught anything. Like we've had people like say, like you said, we have adults who say, what is oral sex? We had adults saying, I thought sex was only for procreation. And it's hard to believe that nowadays we still have those issues in the church. And so that's the whole purpose of having this open and honest discussion about sex. Yeah. I remember posting something, I don't know if you remember, but I posted something that this came from my sex life with my ex. We had three sex styles that we would say. It was kind of like you said, like about the scheduling, but we would say we would have three kinds of sex. So we'd have like the romance, like let's take our time and light some candles and like cuddle afterwards and maybe do it a second time and then cuddle again, and kind of like a long session. And then we had these just do it, kind of like the Nike. And I said, sometimes you just come home and you're like, you know what? We got 5 minutes to kill. Let's go knock it out, right?
I'm so with you.
And then the third kind, I called it karma sex. So there is the time where you come home, you're like, I'm really into it, and the wife's not. And she knows, well, it's karma sex. So she's going to let me have sex, because the next time when she's in the mood and I'm tired, I have to remember, wait a minute, we have a deal. If she's in the mood and I'm not, I got to do it because it's karma sex. I got to get that, back and forth. And so we never had an issue of like, no, I'm not in the mood, because those were our three kind of rules. And we never had issues with sex. Like, we'd come home and we'd be like, hey, we got 5 minutes before the Rugrats come in the house and mess things up. So let's go quickly get it done,
And you know what? It's funny that you say that, Corey, because we had three types too. We had the sex. I mean, do you want sex? Do you want to make love, or do you want to try something new? Those were our three. And so we knew that if it was sex, well, any of it took time, but it was just different. And we knew that okay, if you're in the mood for just sex, it's different than just making love and massages and candles and romantic and or trying something new that might be a little bit more take a little bit more time, and it take a little bit more communication, I should say. It's
Yeah.
not just time, it's communication. And that was really I think that as LDS people, we get married, and for me it was young. You maybe haven't experienced a ton, and so maybe then you go into babies, and then you go in, well, for me it was college and babies and work and moving, and so it took a lot of communication to get to that point. But when we got to that point, we got to that point. And yeah, I could write a book. And like I said, when I called him today and I said, hey, I'm doing this podcast tonight on sex, and you know what? Are you okay if I bring your name up, or not your name specifically, but like the sex life? And he's like, Jennifer, I totally am okay with that. And he said, you know what, the thing about our 26-year marriage, even after the Ponzi scheme, is it lasted even longer because our sex life was amazing. It was amazing. And
yeah, I was in the same boat. Like I was married to an absolute bat blank crazy woman. And maybe that was part of it. But yeah, she was like, that was the only thing that was really good in our marriage. Like the whole sex, the whole, like the different styles, anytime he wanted, there were no issues, different positions and styles and all that. That was all great, but the rest of the marriage was a nightmare. And so yeah, I was married for 22 years, and part of that was I wanted to raise my boys and be in their lives. And then the other thing was like, man, the sex is pretty hot. I think I could tolerate a lot of the crazy over time. After a while, I was like, nah, 2 years of therapy to get out of it. But but yeah, like you said, I mean, it lasted longer than it did because sex was so great. Had sex not been part of the marriage, I probably would have not been able to last that long and be with my kids.
So by the way, let me just jump in here real quick, because we've got a lot of kind of things coming in the chat, and some good questions that just sort of kind of go by the wayside. We will have a little bit of time. We're going to open it up and have people raise their hand, and then you can have the option to either turn your camera on and your microphone and just, ask directly, or you can just turn your microphone on. If you don't want to be on camera, that's totally fine as well. But we'll have an option where, if you really have some questions along the subject, feel free to raise your hand. Here in about probably 15, 20 minutes, we'll open it up and kind of let the audience ask questions directly that way as well. But Jennifer, I did want to ask a question. One of the things that I was curious about, you're going through this situation where you're, kind of talking to the youth and they're writing questions. My feeling is, so my oldest right now is 10, and I know eventually it's going to come. And I think right now she's a little more shielded than most just because of the COVID situation, and they've kind of been away from the classroom. So everything's virtual. She doesn't have that interaction with her peers as much. She doesn't have that opportunity to hear all of these things from other kids. Were you at all surprised at some of the things that the kids knew when you went into that, some of the things that they might have asked?
Actually, that is a great question, because Everett, you might be already missing the boat with a 10-year-old. And I say that because with a 10-year-old girl, it might be different than a 10-year-old boy. And at 10 years old, they have already learned phrases. They already have learned positions. They have already learned so many different things on the bus and in school, on the internet, wherever they're at, they've already learned it. And so it's even worse now than when I had 8 and 10-year-olds. And so when we talk to our children about sex, the youngest probably, or the oldest of our children she probably was 10 at the time, and she was mortified. And that's fine. And we still had the talk. And then the one right after her was only 17 months later, and he actually came to me, or came to, I'm not sure if it was my husband or I, but he came to us, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're asking these questions. And we sat down with him, and this was our conversation with him. He had some questions, and I can't exactly remember the questions, but then we dove right into it. He was 8 years old, and he knew so much already.
Well, I
But
think when they're asking questions, they're ready to hear the answers for the most part, right?
well, exactly, except for when we gave him the answers, we said, this is how sex works. This is, and he had a blanket over him at the time, and he was, you could just see the look on his face. And we said, okay, we have 4 children right now. How many times do you think we have had sex? And he said 4 times. And when my husband said to him, we've had sex thousands of times, the blanket went over his head and he was dying. They don't understand. They are getting it. They are, if you don't, so for us, what we ended up doing was we started them very young, and we did like the basic 101 in sex. And then every year, it was when we called them in, you could see the look on their face. Okay, guys, we're having another lesson on sex. And they were like, oh my gosh. And so with each child, as they got older, it got a little bit more in depth. And
Okay,
so
oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so here's my question, and it's kind of a shift a little bit, and I've noticed a lot of these kind of comments in the chat as well.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, do you think it's the church's place to have such a conversation with kids? And do you think it's a church's place to have leaders who give counsel on what is good and what is bad, because different ones have different opinions? So I'm curious, like for me, I would prefer be the parent that teaches my children. I haven't found that anything sexual coming out of the church has been a very good scenario. So where's your view? Do you think it's really to do with the church, and is that their place?
No, actually, you know what? The church can do whatever they want to do in the classes they teach. And I've been in Young Women's for 17 years. And so I know all of what we teach in Young Women's. And I know that it's not anything. It is not anything what I would teach in my own home. It's not anything that I would teach as a parent and in depth. And I have 4 boys and 2 girls. And let me just tell you, I am looking forward to the day where I have no teenage pregnancies, and everyone is educated and everyone is comfortable and everyone is. And so I don't look at it as the church's place. The church is teaching spiritual stuff. It's like if you're going to go to a therapist, you're not going to the bishop for therapy. You have to go to a professional counselor. They are only to deal with spiritual stuff. And I feel like the sexual stuff is a totally different level. And that is a parent's decision. That is for me to be as comfortable. I mean, like I just said to my teenage boys tonight, hey, I'm doing a podcast tonight and it's going to be on sex, and you guys know exactly what I'm going to talk about. So you guys can, if you want to be in and out of the room, you can hear whatever. You guys already know, I've already talked to you about it. But if you guys want to disappear, great. And so that is, we have been very in depth. And again, it happens. We go year to year with our children. And as they get older, we tell them more and more and more. And I just cross my fingers that I'm not going to have anyone pregnant or have anyone pregnant by the time we graduate.
Well,
yeah, when I was raising my boys, so I started at 8. Like when they were getting baptized, I'm like, guess what? The number one problem in the world is sex, right? With youth. Yeah. And so when my kids were getting baptized, I'm like, well, now you're accountable. I think I should teach you about chastity and about that this is how sex functions and works. Like you have these parts and they're different than girls' parts, and there's a reason why. And we talked about that. And we also said that it's practiced in the bounds of marriage. And then they said, do you and mom do this? And we said, yes, but we're allowed to also do it, not just to make babies, but to strengthen the marriage. So that was like the 8-year-old kind of baptism talk. But when they also left primary, Then we got the heavy talk. Like we went through the heavy talk, and then when my boys started to date at 16, then I got the banana and the condoms out, and I'm like, if you choose,
Corey, I love that. I totally love that, because that's exactly, we are totally on the same page.
Yeah.
And being comfortable with your kids, because if you're not going to teach them, they're going to learn from other sources, and it's not going to be good.
Yeah,
it's not going to be good.
I told them, they said, you have your choice. I said, you have your agency and you have your choice. I said, but if you choose to have sex, please use a condom. And I showed them how to, I said, this is how you open it. It rolls on, it only rolls on one direction. I made them do it. I'm like, I made them put on a banana. They were giggling and laughing. They thought it was the funniest thing. But you know what? They told me years later, like they're in their 20s now, they're like, Dad, I'm so glad you were open and free to talk about this stuff. And they still call me about sex questions, so it's kind of, it's good.
And I think that that's how open we have been too, is.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, please keep your microphones muted when you're in the audience. We just muted Knut before, and somehow he's back on the speaker. So please keep if you're not part of the show, please keep your microphone muted. Thank you. Knut keeps unmuting here.
I think you guys are battling each other. I think he's trying to mute it back again, and you're unmuting him.
Okay. So, this is something for me that's kind of, aside from where we're at right now, obviously in the dating world of start-stop situation, right? Where you've been able to kind of have this as a normal functioning part of your life. Now that you're single again, you basically just turn the faucet off, which is really difficult to do. But more importantly for me, for my kids, I worry about what's going on in the world and them being exposed to this from somebody who might lead them down a bad path.
Well, and you know what? They're going to be exposed regardless. I don't care where you live, and they are going to be exposed. So if you do not want to hear, you don't want them to hear from you first, they're going to hear other things, and they're going to hear it from a bad source. And the way that we presented it to our kids is sex is amazing. It's awesome. It feels great. It was never a bad taboo.
Take the mystery out of it.
Totally. It's amazing. And so we never presented it. We didn't ever want them to grow up feeling like it was a bad thing. It was uncomfortable. It was when it was appropriate. And so for us, it was never like that. And so I don't think, I went for a walk with my daughter today, and we actually talked about this. I talked about this podcast tonight, and she's 20 and got married last summer. And she said to me, you know what, Mom, I think that because of how open you guys were with us, I think that I'm a lot more comfortable. Now, this is a girl that the night before she got married, she got a migraine because she was so stressed about it. But at the same time, we were like, you have to communicate this to your spouse. You have to let them know, you have to talk to them, because you can't talk to us about it. We're not there. And so we can just teach you about it, but we're not there with you. And so it's only going to be as good as you guys make it. And so we've never made it a bad thing. We've only made it an amazing thing. And
That's
so
important.
Yeah.
And I think as far as a marriage, now a divorce and a remarriage or whatever, I think that's so important, is that all three of my kids that are married, well, I have a fourth kid that's not married, that has a girlfriend that is doing his own thing. But I just think that it's important that they know that sex is a good thing. It's not a taboo. It's not a bad thing. It's not only about having children. It's not only about, it's comfortable. And they could at any time come to us and say, okay, this isn't working. like, how do we do this? And maybe they go to friends, but we have made it very, very comfortable for them that they could come to us and say anything that they want to.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I think parents are so paranoid that their kids are going to break the law of chastity, get pregnant, leave the church because of whatever. And because of that, they want to scare the bejesus out of them.
Totally.
So they are like, sex is evil and bad and blah, blah, blah. And they just have these kids growing up like the whole world's talking about sex. And I'm going to have to go on my wedding night and have sex for the first time. But my mom told me for 18 years it's evil and disgusting and gross. And now I'm going to go do this thing that I've been afraid of my whole life. It's so sad.
And so
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
I was just going to say, I was just going to kind of shift this a little bit because because there was a comment in the chat about, what about us as single? How are we dealing with sex, and when is it appropriate for us to be talking about sex and things like that? So I know in the past I've made a post. It was just, let's talk about sex, in one of the Facebook pages. And I just was throwing out there, hey, when is the right time to talk about sex? When you first start dating, when you're seriously dating, you're the night before you get married, like, when are we talking about sex? Because the truth is that it needs to be compatible. Like, some people are uncomfortable with certain things and other people want to do them, and that would probably not be a good relationship. So what are some of those things in your mind? Like, when is a good time and what type of topics should be talked about?
Oh, I think it depends on the situation. And a first date, maybe not. I mean, a first date is a first date, but a first date can also be 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. And you might get a lot deeper into a first date than just going to a movie. And I think at that time, it's appropriate. If you've been married before, it's appropriate. For me, I'm so comfortable with it. I'm so comfortable talking about it. I'm so comfortable expressing my feelings about it. And I mean, for me, it's healthy. It's totally healthy. I'm not thinking, oh my gosh, like, when am I going to talk about it? No, I will totally talk about it. And I don't think it's a bad thing.
So what about those people who say that if you think it, then you've committed the sin already? Because that was one of the things on my post, that there was a lot of people that are like, no, that is sinful, like, to even really discuss it and to ask, if, are you okay with oral sex or whatever? Like, they viewed that as that sinful, because in the scriptures it states, if you think it, then you're sinning. So
and that's their problem. That's what I'm only going to say that for me. That is their problem. And if I have a question that I really think, and I've already come back to this, I mean, after meeting with my stake president, I've already come back to the podcast and said some things. And I think that's up to them. I am just not a person that is uncomfortable with it. I'm totally comfortable with myself. I'm comfortable if I'm going to talk about it or anything with anybody else, it's because I'm comfortable with it. I'm not going to hold back. And maybe that will prevent you from a second, third, or fourth date. If you want to talk about surface things and the other person is not, the communication is not good. And it's not going to happen anyways. If the communication is good, you will know exactly when the right time to talk about it, especially if you have been in a situation or a relationship before, and which I have been in now 2 marriages. And I would know if the communication was good enough. I mean, there are some people that I would not waste a minute on talking to them about sex or anything physical at all. And there are other people that, yeah, maybe the first day would be, no, this is how I feel about it. I am very sexual. I think it's super important in a marriage, in a relationship, and I think that comes with just me being comfortable about it.
Right. Okay, cool.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that's an important discussion. And I know that for some people too, it's very concerning because we're not dating and having sex with people, right? So, well, at least some of us, right? I can't
Right,
speak for everybody in the
exactly.
audience, but
We're not like test drivers, so it's like we
yeah,
have to talk about it since we're not test driving
yeah.
things.
I mean, at some point, you're going to get to the relationship where you're like, I really want to marry this person, but would you want to find out on your wedding night that the guys got dysfunctional, erectional,
Oh, oh,
dysfunction, or you want to find your wedding night that the woman is just totally disgusted with sex, and she's like, you need to cover my face while we have sex. I mean, something weird happens on your wedding night, and you're like, whoa, 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 why didn't we have this conversation?
you know what? It's, Corey, I love it because my youngest son, he is like, Mom, I don't understand why in the church we can't get married and not have sex. And yet, would you ever buy a car and not test drive the car first? Would you ever buy? And I'm like, you know what? You're exactly right. We wouldn't. I would never buy a car without test driving it first. And he's like, why would you ever not test drive it and not get married? And so I look at it and I'm like, hey, if the communication is good, and I'm sorry, and I'm going to be so blunt here, but if you need a blue pill to get through the night, get it. Let's do
Get
it.
it?
Come on. I mean, like,
Yes.
we're not getting younger, so let's communicate. Let's get it done. Let's
Yeah.
not like pretend like something is not. Let's just be so open and candid. And
Yeah.
so that's totally me. And I feel like a lot of relationships do fail because the communication is really, really poor.
And you need to go
And
down that checklist. I mean, you need to make
totally,
a list of what you like and
yeah,
go down that checklist with a person. You're like, look, I like to orally pleasure women. Or is that going to gross you out?
totally.
And you don't have to reciprocate, but if you did, that'd be awesome too. I mean, you have to go down that list. And if she's like, oh my gosh, you're freaking me out. No, we're not doing any of that stuff. Then you're like, okay, I know
And then
I need to make
you
some
can,
changes in my life right now.
yeah, and then you can decide. But you know what? And then you can also decide if it actually works for you. And I think that especially now, with, I would say, the majority of the people that are on the podcast right now that have been divorced, maybe some that have not been married, but at this stage maybe have had sex before. Um, I think that maybe they know what they like and they know what they want, and they have to communicate that. And whether you have children or you don't have children, whether you like oral sex or you don't like oral sex, or whatever you like, I am just throwing out there that you have to be open with that person. When I remarried the second time, I was only married a very, very short time. And this was a person that was a convert to the church. And they felt like they had in the bag. They were like, oh my gosh, you've only had one partner. I've had all these people. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm sorry, but I left him in the dust.
Not to brag or anything, right?
No, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that he really felt like, because he had multiple people, I had 26 years of experience of a person that I communicated with, that I was trying something different and new every 6 months. I had communicated with my bishop and stake president. I mean, like, I was on it, and we had a great sex life. And so for him to come in and think that he was going to, I was like, great, bring it. You know what? Bring something new to the table. I'm sorry, he couldn't.
I sort of feel like in a situation like that, though, this gets to the root of the difference between somebody who is just out for sex being sex versus somebody who has made sex a healthy part of a relationship and has helped it grow and make that connection strong. Where, it's one thing to go out and just like, yeah, I sleep around all the time. And it's a completely different ballgame to say, like, I do these things because it like makes me connect with my spouse.
Okay, so I can't keep up with all the comments that are being made right now because I'm only looking at them a little bit, but I love the comments. And
Oh,
so,
it's
yes,
we've got a healthy chat room
Yeah,
tonight.
we're getting ready to open up the discussion for everybody. But I do have a good story that I think it's really. I had a friend of mine whose daughter was getting married, and she was a true, like, legitimate. They were both legitimate virgins. They had never had sex before, and her daughter was asking her, like, what to expect and what should she do and this and that. And so she calls me and asks, like, Corey, what should I tell my daughter? And all I told her was, I said, tell her to be patient and do not, like, shame him. I said, I promise you, he's never done it before. He's going to be nervous as crap. He's going to be shaking and he's going to be nervous. I said, it's going to last about 5 seconds. She's not going to have fun. It's going to be painful for 5 seconds. He's going to be like, that was the greatest experience of my life.
exactly.
But she needs to be patient and not shame him and say, like, that was it. So I said, he's 20 something years old. He's going to recharge in like 30 seconds. He'll be ready to go again. I said, then you can enjoy the rest of the night. He's got the nerves out, and then you guys can try again. And then she reported back after their honeymoon that was the best advice.
Right.
Like, because I mean, it's very easy for a woman to go, what the hell, like 6 seconds? And the guy's like, I've never done it before. I mean,
Right.
Even bull riders go 8 seconds. Come on.
Yeah. Yes. So just some advice if people out there have virgins that are getting married and they want sex advice, no shaming, be patient. You got all night.
Well, exactly. I mean, like my daughter who had she got a migraine the night before because she was so stressed about everything. And she was very prepared. And yet she still got a migraine. And halfway through her wedding day, she had a migraine. And I remember sitting in the bridal room with her and saying, talk to me about what's going on. And she said, you know what, Mom, I'm just really nervous about having sex. And I said, well, you're 20 years old. And I said, what you need to do and how you're going to alleviate this is, yeah, you get migraines. We have the medicine for the migraines, but it's the stress part. And you have to, you can communicate it to me all you want, but it's not going to relieve it. You have to communicate it to him. And he's amazing. Her husband's amazing. And I said, so communicate it to him. It's communication between the two of you. It's not between you and me. I mean, that's not the relationship anymore. It's between you and him. And so I think that great communication regarding sex, and whether you're dating, whether you're about to get married, whether you're married, I think that it's great communication. In the bedroom, I don't care, you're married, you're having sex, great communication is going to equal great sex.
Exactly.
So
good point to end on there on that.
Yes.
We're kind of getting to the point of the podcast where we're going to open it up. We're going to ask people to please raise.
Oh no.
And if you got a question for either Jennifer or Corey, Celeste, or myself, anything is fair game. Please just be respectful, nothing too trashy or disgusting, like, certain details of their sex life or something like that. We'll keep it on a classy level. So please raise your hand. We'll ask you again, if you'd like to turn on your camera and mic, you're certainly welcome to. You're under no obligation. You can turn on just your microphone if you'd like to just do that and not be on camera. Either way is fine. But please raise your hand. If you don't know how to do that, just put that out in the chat and we will give you instructions for that. I did want to say, while we're waiting kind of for our first question here, though, to me, I feel like when you have these conversations, because this always comes up, this is always a topic of when is the right time to have that conversation about sex. And I feel like it's kind of in layers, right? Like if it's on the first date, if that's something that comes up, okay. But I don't feel like on the first date, it should be like, gosh, it's great to meet you. By the way, do you like oral sex? Like you're jumping into the deep end right off the bat. I feel like it's,
it can be, actually, it can be, but you know what? It doesn't have to be. Let's just say that.
I feel like it would be a little bit weird and awkward if you like went that far that fast. I feel like
it all depends.
I guess like that would kind of catch me off guard. Like, wow, well, okay,
You don't live in Utah, so.
This is true. I don't live in Utah. To me, I think I'd be more comfortable with something like, do you believe sex is a healthy part of a relationship? Yeah. Okay, great. Me too. Perfect. So, later down and maybe second date or something, then you can get a little bit more information and a little bit more. And that way it kind of comes out almost naturally rather than just like, oh, you do. All right. Well, let's just talk about getting it on right now. It's just too much too fast, I think. So that's my my opinion. Okay, so I know we have a lot of questions, and there's one that somebody had asked earlier, and if she doesn't ask it again, I might go ahead and ask it as well. But let's get to some of these first. So Celeste is kind of managing who goes first here, and who do we got?
That's right. I am not seeing any hands yet, so.
No,
it's because everyone's afraid to talk about it.
Yeah, Veronica does want to know what our opinions are on oral sex.
Okay. All right. Do I want to start? Do you guys want to start?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I'm happy.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, so oral sex, I think it's between the two of you. I think that is something that is totally comfortable between the two of you. If one is not comfortable and the other is not comfortable, then that's great. If one is, one's not, then you have to talk about it. If you're both comfortable with it, I say go for it. Go for it. If you're both not, then don't even go down that road. And if it's one and one, then talk about it. Like communicate it, and maybe you ease into it. Maybe you don't ever go there. It really is about a mutual communication and respect. But for all means, yeah, if you're both for it, then go for it. I say that. And I think that there is not going to be one bishop that says anything different. And I've been to several. And they would say, they have all said the same thing. It is definitely a mutual thing. So that's my take.
I would add to that, Jennifer, just because we live in a world where pornography is becoming like a mainstream thing. Look, it doesn't have to be a demeaning act. If anybody's ever seen a porn video or anybody's ever been addicted to porn and they've seen it, it doesn't have to be a demeaning act like these, pornographic movies might show. It can be intimate. It can be part of foreplay. It could be, something that's very, between you. It doesn't have to be demeaning. So just a lot of women might think that it's a demeaning act, because they've seen it or heard about it, but it's not.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think all too often people get to a point where they believe that it's just something that they have to kind of suffer through if they're going to do something like that because they don't enjoy it. My feeling is that if you are truly focused on the other person and it's something that you're interested in making them feel good, then it doesn't necessarily come across that bad. Maybe that doesn't sound right the way I'm putting it, but it comes across as something that's more pleasurable because you're finding pleasure and helping them find pleasure. I think that's kind of that sexual connection in a couple.
Okay, so I'm going to even take it a step further, Everett.
Go ahead.
So maybe I'm going to be totally kicked off the podcast at this point.
No, go ahead.
No, we're all adults here, and it's just educational.
Really? I mean, like we all know what we're here for, right? I mean, the topic is sex ed. So what I'm going to say is when you do the same thing every time, it gets boring. And you don't want to do that. You want to keep your sex life alive. And oral sex tends to be an aspect, not the only thing, but keeps it alive. It keeps it alive. It keeps it, again, if you're both on the same page, I'm sorry, but if you're having sex for years, you don't want an apple the same time. You want something different. You want a variety. And so I don't think that spicing it up, that actually makes it even better. My opinion.
All right.
No, I think you're right. All right, we got lots of hands going up. Let's get to
We're
the
gonna
hands.
go to Ryan
Lots
Harper.
of hands. Look at, we got lots of hands now.
Ryan's, you can unmute and you can turn on your video if you'd like.
Hi guys.
Hey, Ryan. I always love your setup. Whenever you come on, you look.
I know he's all like
You look
professional.
so official.
Thank you. So let's see. So I had a couple things that I wrote some notes on it. So first of all, one of the things I wanted to mention is like you mentioned like taking a blue pill, if for ED and things like that. And so I would compare that to like people who wear glasses because you have a vision problem. Like if we can treat, or people who like there's a lot of talk nowadays about treating mental illness like an actual disease, and like there are medications to help with these things. And so maybe think about something in that kind of a light, that like this is a tool, whether it's made out of, polycarbonate or whether it's made out of something engineered by Pfizer. It's a tool that we can use to overcome things physiologically. Another thought that I had was talking about, I think like we're getting over some of the treating things as taboo. There was a fireside I went to with someone who's been working on the Saints project for the church, and was specifically dealing with indexing or whatever. And someone asked like, well, how is the church treating some of the kinds of taboo subjects that I think in years past and stuff that, a lot of members of the church would just be like, well, we're just not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about plural marriage. We're not going to talk about the mountain meadows. We're not going to talk like some of these different kinds of subjects. And whenever some of these sort of things were brought up to the brethren in the subject of putting together saints, they said, actually, we need to put more information in. Because if we don't present it to people, if we don't talk about these kinds of things, then people are going to go to another source to try and find out what they can find out from someone else. And so I think the same thing applies to sex. And so like if people, if they can't talk to their parents, or if, whoever the healthy resource that in their lives would be isn't available or doesn't make themselves available, then they're going to go ask their friends. They're going to go online. They're going to go run to pornography or something. They're going to find some other resource and probably find something that's less healthy and, comes from a different place. The other thing that I thought it was just kind of a funny anecdote or like suggestion that I've heard, that when people are planning their weddings, that they should, have the ceremony in the morning and then consummate the marriage in the afternoon. So then they're more relaxed and chill for the reception in the evening. Obviously that's not happening right now because of COVID. So there's no parties anymore, but still, anyway, it was a suggestion that sounds like a good suggestion to me. I don't think I'd make it
to the reception.
Have a little break in the middle.
Yep. Just to take the edge off, just so that you can make it through the party, and you're not tired from the party for that as well. So
that's true. That's a good point. Well, I'll add to what you said. That's good, Ryan. I appreciate that. I'll add to what you said though, for those out there, like pornography, it's not real sex. I mean, don't go watch porn and think that's what you're gonna do. I mean,
right.
It's just not. So
you mean stuff on movies and TV isn't real?
Oh yeah. So don't get curious and go, I think I'm gonna watch a porn. Because if you try to do what they do in the porn with your significant other, they're not going to be happy.
At least not right off the bat. I mean, like
no, they'll be like, "Where did you learn that disgusting thing?"
Yeah,
totally.
Well, thank you, Ryan. We appreciate your questions and comments.
Sure.
Thanks, Ryan. So while we're kind of bringing up the next person, we had a question somebody asked me to kind of relay to you. When you're going through this, since we've kind of talked a little bit about pornography, did you feel like, I mean, at one point you said when your husband left town, you wanted him to be thinking of you the entire time. So you kind of like gave him something to like send him off with and had him know that there was something waiting at home for him when he got home. Was there ever a time in your marriage at all where pornography became a problem or played a part?
Actually, in my first marriage, no. I mean, there was no reason I mean, the send off was so good that he couldn't wait to return home. Let's just say that. And so when he got home, I mean, and he wasn't gone very long. And if he traveled for a certain amount of time, then I would go with him, or I would meet him there. And this is just a suggestion actually from our stake president that said, I know what's going on in the world today, and this is the suggestion. If you're going to travel for a certain amount of time, this is the way guys think. This is the way. I'm like, I'm all for it. Like, I'll travel wherever. And so I think that, no, he didn't. Now, my second marriage, he was already programmed differently. And so I could not go back and reprogram that. And that was what ended our marriage. And
You
so
say he was programmed differently. He was addicted to porn. Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, partially. I should say. And I don't want to, I don't mean to throw anyone under the bus. I really don't. But I think that he was at a stage in his life, and through his own circumstances and his own, past marriage, that maybe there was no sex. And I'm sorry, but if you look at humans, men and women, men are programmed to have sex. And so women can be, and they maybe reach it later on in life, but men are. And so I just say, women, step up. Let's get to let's reach that level earlier on, and let's figure it out so we don't have those problems. And so I just, again, I
So
think
did you ever like send him a little bit of pictures or videos or FaceTime each other? Did y'all ever do anything?
totally. And you know what? All of that can be. Like FaceTiming, now that we have FaceTime, back in the day, we didn't have FaceTime. And so now FaceTiming, yeah. That can be something. That can be
An intimate FaceTime?
totally an intimate FaceTime. I really believe that you can satisfy that without them having to cheat and without them having to, do whatever it takes to keep your significant other on board, and find out what that is. And if it's not what you're into, figure it out. Communication, figure it out. Don't clam up. Don't not talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about what the needs are, what the communication is. And so I really feel like so many divorces now, I think that, and I say that, but my last divorce was not the same. And so I really think that the two reasons, the two top, and I actually looked it up today, the two top reasons for divorce is money and sex. And that is consecutive, year in and year out. Sex and money, sex and money, sex and money.
Yeah.
And they trade the number one and number two positions. And
Wow.
so figure it out. And
the sex part's easy to fix, Sometimes you're not gonna make all the money in the world, but you can make up all the sex in the world you
Well,
want.
for the guys, girls, it has to
hopefully
be
you
a
can make up the
social
sex
connection
for
too,
the
though.
money, right?
True. All right, let's see if we can get
Let's go
Skip
next.
on, and then Scott.
Well, we've got Scott Parkinson's coming up next. Scott?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you.
Here, I'll either start my video. I'm in my pajamas, so I'm like,
That's okay.
gonna. All right, calling you from Colorado.
Oh, there you are.
I don't want to deter from the favor. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
There, I'll sit down so my camera's not bouncing. Okay. So I've been divorced since 2016, and Jennifer's story was really interesting there to hear. So, but something, and my question is not going to really be about the sex topic, but something you just said is like the light bulb to me. So I was married 22 years, 4 wonderful kids, 3 of them at BYU right now, and one's a sophomore in high school, and all super kids, and kind of one of those couples that everybody thought was the perfect marriage, right? Excuse me. I later found out that my wife was having an affair with a seminary director and she was a volunteer seminary teacher. So, and it went on for several years. And unfortunately, it wasn't the first incident. We had another situation with a family cousin 5 or 6 years earlier, and it really just blew me out of the water. She was the daughter of this big patriarch and such, and just the perfect gal, right? And the divorce was really ugly. I was 8 years from retiring, so she got a lot of money in the cut and bought a $600,000 house and such, for her fancy new affair. They both got excommunicated and got married about a year and a half later. He had 6 kids, happily married, and long story short, but I've been hanging on to some serious anger. And something you said in your story when you talked about how you even called your ex before this podcast. I mean, how did you get to the level like I've really been carrying a lot of hate, a lot of anger, not only for what it did to our family, but what it did to our finances and everything else. We had kind of wonderful finances, paid our house off in 7 years and that kind of thing, and had a good thing going. How did you get to the point from going from a hateful divorce situation to where you would consider yourselves even halfway friends? And is that important? Maybe that's, I guess, a part 2 question of it. How did you get there, and was it important to get there, or does it even matter? Because right now, I can't even stand seeing a text or a voicemail or email or anything from her, and she's now married to her affair and whatnot, and so it's just, but it's caused a lot of anger, and when my kids can feel that, obviously. So I'll pause and get any of your feedback.
Yeah, thanks. Let me just say one thing real quick before we get too deep into this discussion, because this can take us off track 100 miles,
right,
down
right.
a separate slope. This is a great topic, and we could probably have an entire podcast just around this topic. So we'll probably kind of touch on it lightly and then go back to our main topic. So just kind of be aware that we don't want to have things go like totally off the rails on where we're going with the discussion now, but But
Scott, we'll be happy to have, we plan on doing a future podcast on this, because there's a lot of people in the same boat that you've been in. I've been in that boat. A lot of people have been in that same boat. So you're not alone. We've all had to deal with the anger. We've all had to deal with the anger, the hurt, the betrayal. But what I could tell you, what helped me tremendously was when I say my prayers, is asking the Lord through the atonement to take the pain away, to use the atonement to heal me. You may not have sinned, but you're the victim of sin. You're the victim of somebody's agency. And the atonement covers that too. The atonement is there for victims. The atonement is there to remove pain and suffering from victims, not just pain and suffering from the sinner. So, that really helped me over time, nightly praying about that. And over time, the Savior removed that. And I was in the same boat you were in.
Yeah.
And so did that help the relationship? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was able to look at her differently. I was able to have a different view of her and started to see her like the Lord sees her. Like, yeah, she's got issues and she's got problems, but she's still a daughter of God and she's struggling and the Savior loves her. Why am I hating so much on her? Like, why am I letting this cancerous feeling ruin my life? I'm not going to let it ruin my life. I'm going to move on with my life.
Yeah.
So Scott, I'm going to,
go ahead, Jennifer.
So Scott, I'm going to just touch on this briefly is, my ex-husband, again, the one I spoke to today, the father of my 6 children, he actually ended up marrying his mission companion's wife. And I was friends with her after 24 years. And so I feel the pain and I know like some of the hurt that goes into that. It feels, but for me, it was looking into my own children's eyes every single day, the 3 that I had in my home, and seeing that it was more important for them to have a mom and a dad, not a mom and dad that were married, but a mom and a dad. And I had to get past it. I had to buck up and, pull up the bootstraps and say, you know what, I'm going to do this, not just for me, because I'm the parent. I'm going to do this for these children that we had. And he's married to the friend of mine of 24 years, his best friend, mission companion's wife. And my children have had to live through that. And together we have worked through that. And it is possible. It's totally possible. You have to just, life happens in crazy, crazy ways. And nobody, I mean, people here in the community call me and say, how do you guys sit together at a football game? How do you guys like communicate? How do you guys like, and you know what? I loved him and was in love with him for so long. And a lot of things came in the way. And I look into, again, my children's eyes, and I think that's how I can get past it. It's not because I'm superhuman, because I'm not. It's not because I'm so incredible, because I'm not. It's because I love my children. And I look at him and I'm like, I loved him at some point. I was in love with him. And we had these children on purpose for a reason. And because he and I'm not even pointing the blame at him, we both made mistakes. This is where we're at. And so I feel your pain. I actually really, really feel your pain. And it's not because I take it lightly, because I don't. And again, like Corey said, I could do a whole nother podcast on, my heavens, my ex married his best friend's wife, a companion, a mission companion, that we went to dinners with, that we had their families over. And I could go into a whole nother podcast with that. But again, it's about forgiveness. And I'm totally past it.
I was just going to add real quick that one way that I've kind of managed to get to the position where I am with my ex is that I went through like 4.5 years of therapy. And I think as I worked on my own anger and my own bitterness and my own challenges that went along with that I was able to like go through the mourning process and get from the beginning to the end. And it was kind of amazing because at the end of the process, there's still times it irritates me and stuff, but like for the most part, we're pretty amicable and we get along pretty well. And I think it's because I feel solid. I feel whole. I've processed all the pain, the anger and everything. And so it makes it so much easier for me to just be like, it's just you. I'm, whatever. And because I'm whole. And so that might be a good place. Start with yourself first, and then you'll see that it'll help in the long run. So
for sure.
Okay.
Once you're comfortable with yourself, the rest will feel like at some point you start to feel almost sorry for them. They missed out on what you are, what you have to offer.
I think we lost Skip's hands. I don't know if Skip's
Skip, are you still there, buddy? You're next.
No, I'm here. I just lowered my hand because I thought everybody was tired of hearing it or seeing it.
No, you're good. I've got my list. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so Jennifer, I have a question. So you were married for 22 years. The first
26.
Oh, 26. My bad.
Yeah, you're missing 4 years there.
Okay, so out of the 26 years, was it only 22 years that the sex was great then? No, but like, I guess my question is, if the sex was so great, like when did and maybe I missed this because I was late, how did your first marriage end? Or why did you want the divorce? Did he want the divorce? Did he cheat? Why?
No, actually, you know what? There was
the legal stuff.
Yeah, you know what? There was a lot of legal stuff, and there was a lot of behind the scenes legal stuff. And I have to say that the way that the marriage ended is we were in the same house in separate bedrooms and still having sex on a daily basis. And the sex was still good. It was not still good. It was still great. And so we would have continued that if we could have, logistically.
Well, okay, so then how do you have, once you've emotionally left the marriage, how do you just have mindless sex?
Oh, Really?
Oh, it's so easy, Skip.
That's easy.
No,
That's,
I mean,
that's so
Yep,
easy.
this
That's
is
like
the
every
answer.
day.
This is a question for every guy. Like guys,
Every
Don't guys do that anyway?
no, I can do that, but I was asking you as a woman
No.
because
Oh,
Yeah.
women
What
can do it too,
about-
Skip.
once my
So-
ex was done, she was like done.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe Skip, I was having mindless sex, but it was still mindless sex and I was having it every day. And it was amazing and it was great.
Yeah.
And it was great until actually the day the ink dried.
Really?
And
that must have
Yeah.
been weird. Were you just kind of like, so I guess it's done now. We can't do this. I guess.
actually, I mean that
Was
that
there a
might
little
be
run over, little spill over into the post?
Hey,
That
till the
might-
judge, hey,
that might be a
Everett,
whole
till the
nother
judge
podcast.
signs it. Till the judge actually signs it, you're not divorced. So,
She said till the ink was dry, but it sounds like it might have spilled over a little bit afterwards too.
hey, you know what?
Yeah,
It was
maybe.
still wet.
Maybe.
The
You know
ink
what?
was still a little wet. So,
Okay.
I am not a liar, and I am being totally honest. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe until the ink had dried and dried and dried and dried.
Okay.
And that is
Yeah.
because we were married 26 years, and I don't think that you can go out and date and you can find that initially or for a long time. For maybe 26 more years, you could find what we had as far as the sexual stuff. And unless you have amazing communication, and I'm being totally raw and honest here. I'm not being, oh my gosh, I have to check myself into the bishop. I'm being totally raw. I'm being totally honest. I'm being totally, with him, it was amazing. We had 6 children together. And we had actually an amazing life until the Ponzi scheme and a lot of things. It wasn't just him it was him initially. It wasn't just him after that. We all fell apart at that time because we did not know what to do. But
Okay, but the Ponzi scheme is what started it?
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Skip. My ex and I, even though we were going through a rocky divorce and there was a infidelity that triggered it, I was in separate rooms, and my son was finishing high school. So for like almost 14 months, where we're living in the same roof, my ex would come into my room midnight, totally knock on, totally like push me, wake me up, and she's like, "Can we just do it?" And I'd be like, yeah, okay, but I got to get up early for work, so let's get it over with. And it was just mindless, get some, because she was in the mood. And then that happened a lot. So, or I'd be taking a shower and she'd come sneak down and climb in the shower with me. And I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? Where are the kids,
Who cares what the kids are? Like, seriously, I'm with Corey. I'm like, it doesn't matter at that point. You're still a married couple and you're just
Well,
doing
we
it.
lived in the same house in separate bedrooms for probably 6 or 8 months, but there's no way in hell that was happening. Like,
Oh, I'm so sorry, Skip. That wasn't happening for you.
trust me, I was sorry too. So then your second marriage, how long were you married for that time?
Actually, I was only married a year and a half.
And you said you basically ate him alive in the bedroom? Was that the cause of your divorce?
Actually, you know what? That's not the cause of our divorce. But yes, that happened, but that was not the cause of our divorce. Let's just say that. Let's just say that he thought he was more experienced because he had more people on the notches on his bedroom, but he could not. I'm sorry, there was nothing. He was jealous about what I had in the 26 years and the thing that I had built with my first husband, and he could have had that. Exactly.
Did you guys have communication before you got married about sex?
Yes, but you know what? Again, it kind of went to, and Skip, I don't know if you missed the whole part of me test driving the car, like my son said.
I saw that.
So I think that it comes down to that aspect is there was not test driving the car. And so we got married and I did not know what kind of car I was driving. And so had I known, I would have traded it in really, really quick. And so instead I went for counseling and he quit, and I went for trying to work it out. And after a year and a half, I was like, you know what? I'm young enough. I'm healthy enough. Yeah, I can move forward. I'm not going to deal with what I'm having to deal with right now. And the jealousy was crazy, just crazy. So.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Skip.
So Jennifer, the question then that I have is, you go through this relationship,
Yeah.
and you've been married for 26 years. You've had this, I mean, I can only imagine the bond of that kind of situation with this guy. Obviously, he goes off and gets married again, and then you get married again. Was it extremely difficult being in another relationship with somebody to say, okay, I'm going to like completely start bonding with this person? I mean, porn addiction and everything aside, because I'm assuming you didn't know that at the beginning. Was it awkward trying to kind of reestablish that connection and rebuild that sort of thing, that sort of relationship?
Oh, I think it's always tough rebuilding the relationship. I do. And I think that rebuilding is only as good as how the two of you come together and rebuild. If only one person is rebuilding and the other person is not, it's not going to work. And so from my standpoint is, I had an ex-spouse at that time that was very involved with his children, and that I did, obviously, he married a friend of mine of 24 years. And so we had to get past that. But I felt like the jealousy from him, because he knew I was married for 26 years. I think initially he came into the marriage and thought, oh my gosh, I've had all these people I've been with, like, you are not experienced. And then we get into the marriage and he's like, oh my gosh, like, I am not
This
even
lady's
there.
a freak. What have I just stepped
Yeah,
into?
totally. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so you can just say it like that. You can say it like that. That's totally great. He's just saying, you know what? She wants sex all the time. Like, I don't get this. I've never had this. And I'm like, okay, because you've never had like a stable, long-term relationship. And so I think that then he became jealous, and he became territorial, and he became crazy because of what I had in the past. And my ex and I had never, from the time I ever met my second ex-spouse, we never, I'm not a cheater. I would never, that's not my nature. And so it's definitely one relationship at a time. And so I don't think could grasp that. And I think that he was very, very, very intimidated by that. And I think that what he thought was experience and multiple people did not pan out at all. Let's just say it failed completely. So.
We have one question that came in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to make a comment real quick that it's really kind of a testament to the difference between what like pornography portrays versus what is real in a marriage. Because what's real in a marriage is that connection, that bond, those intimate moments. That's really there to strengthen. And it's a beautiful thing. Heavenly Father has given us that as a great tool by which to solidify a couple. Pornography is a cheap knockoff that is unrealistic and does not lead to the same results whatsoever.
Right.
And sometimes it can be super demeaning where it's one-sided. The woman is the receiver of a man's, pleasure. So
yeah, those women
aren't watching porn. It's 99% women and it's 99% men. So it's all geared towards the men getting his pleasure and the women just receiving it.
Right.
All right. So there's just one more question that came in from the audience, and I don't see him in here anymore, but I'll ask it anyway. So it says, how do you tactfully suggest cleanliness? Infections are common and so are STDs. So what about that topic? It's kind of a random one, but it was asked, so I thought I'd ask it.
Cleanliness. What?
Yeah, like more detail there. Cleanliness.
In here.
Like,
I
you
just
shower
like-
before and after?
I'm not
Yeah,
even
like,
it's
really?
not in here.
Like
He
the
said that-
smegma buildup is kind of
I-
rotten
He said
and stinky. I
infections
don't
are
understand.
common and so are STDs. So
Wait, what's that?
that infections are common and so are STDs. So,
Amen.
all right, should we just say let's be clean and shower? Is that what we
Yeah.
need to say?
Well, I mean,
I think
Yeah,
if you're monogamous, I don't think the STDs become a real.
yeah. I mean, unless you're out there getting your freak on and then you decide to want to settle down and get married, then yeah, you might have to go out and get tested. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. He's not here to get his answer. He left.
I was gonna say, like, I'm so happy to answer that. If he had more detail, I'm like, I will totally
Yeah,
answer
he
that.
didn't give much more details. That's
I
what
think
got.
that was a grenade. I think he just tossed that in the room and then ran out.
Totally.
Maybe.
He's like, you know what? I'm gonna throw this in there. I'm not doing it. So
Right.
Okay, so Brent's saying here that he was wanting to know how and when to ask the questions about STDs and things like that.
okay, I can take the answer. If anyone doesn't want to. I will, and I only say this because of my second marriage, not my first, because my first, we had only been together. And so my second, he actually almost looked at it as a prize that he had been with multiple people. I mean, not only multiple, like multiple. And so for me, I was like, I haven't been, and I am very sexual. And so I took him to my doctor and got him tested. Sorry.
Yeah, I had my wife. Well, my wife was my wife at the time, my ex-wife. She had she claimed that I might have an STD because she's projecting all her affairs like onto me. So I went down and got tested just to show her like I don't have any STDs. And then I just told her, I said, if you do, I'm not asking to get a test because we're getting divorced. But if you do,
Let me know.
let me know. Yeah, before we continue these little midnight rendezvous.
Right.
Right.
But I was clean. Yeah, okay, I didn't cover that. So everybody's like, so what were the results? No,
Oh.
I was clean.
The results,
good job,
Corey.
Corey.
No.
Yeah.
I scored a 90%. What does that mean, Corey?
Oh,
And
No.
I really do. I don't feel like for me that the people that I have been with that have been questionable, I really don't. But with him, the person I married the second time, it was questionable. And so, yeah, if it's questionable, then why not? Why not? I mean, if there's nothing on either side, and say he came back positive or whatever, then let's deal with it. Again, back to communication. Let's deal with it. It's not, I don't know. Let's not make anything taboo. I think that when you make it taboo is when it becomes the problem. I really feel like it really does. And so he came back negative. Great. That's perfect. Let's get married. Let's, do our thing. But I really, if you feel like it's questionable, then yeah, why not? Why not get tested? And if you have something to hide, and you don't want to get tested, red flag.
Huge red
Yeah.
flag.
well,
And
I think like there's a question on here about people might lie about their sexual preferences and all that. I mean, if you're dating somebody that's going to lie, that's already a red flag there. You need to have those honest conversations. And I'm sorry if you're planning to lie to somebody and deceive them into a marriage by telling them you're into all this great sex. And then on the wedding night, you're like ew, go away, don't touch me, then you know what? You defrauded that relationship from the beginning. So hopefully everybody is going into the relationship honest and open. And if you don't like sex, don't go out and date. Don't be on these dating sites if you don't want to have sex. If you don't like sex, I mean,
Don't, find friends.
have that conversation.
Get on the friend seeking website. Get on the let's be girlfriends and hike website. Let's not get on the dating website. I'm just saying that don't put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And don't put yourself out there to date somebody if you are not expecting a result. Don't.
Yeah. By the way, just as a kind of a little bit of housekeeping notes, I've noticed a few people kind of wanting to chime in here. If you have a question, please just don't turn on your camera. Go ahead and raise your hand, and we're trying to get to it in an orderly fashion. So we're just trying to keep a little bit of order instead of all these cameras popping on and people popping in. So
I'm not even seeing any of them. So.
Well, I just put the shortcut keys on there, guys. If you have a Mac, use the Option Y. If you're on a Windows, use the Alt Y keys to raise and lower your hand. It's very simple to do.
I just wanted to bring up one other thing. This is circling way back around to the topic of oral sex. Somebody had asked whether or not how we felt about that if one person agrees with it, another person didn't. So I just kind of want to give an example here of a good friend of mine that he was in a marriage for 18 years. She loved receiving oral sex, would not reciprocate at all, not even once in 18 years. But she demanded that he provided that for her, which I thought was just really bizarre that he would go down that road. I think that if you get into a marriage of anything, whether it's oral sex or any sort of thing, if you are wanting your spouse to do something for you, you better be willing to reciprocate. I think it's completely selfish and one-sided to say, I like this, but don't you dare expect it in return.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually, if somebody else wants to take the lead on this,
Go ahead.
I'm going to say something, and this is going to be totally out there, but Everett, I think that women don't want to be on the receiving end, because when guys have an orgasm, and I'm going to be totally blunt, if they come, then something comes out. With girls, maybe it doesn't. And so they don't want to go down that route. And so I agree with you.
That's not necessarily true. Women get wet down there the whole time. So not just
and they can, but I'm just going to say that it might not be the same taste, the same smell, the same.
There are women that get grossed out about that. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm just saying that, and that's only because I'm being totally transparent. They might not like that. And so that is, again, back to communication.
You got to have a conversation.
This is a conversation that this is what's going to happen. This is what you like. This is what I like. This is what's going to happen. Boom. This is what's going to happen. There's no surprises here. And so let's all be educated.
Yeah. And have a conversation. You can always say, hey, I'll give you a warning, and then
I'll give you a warning. This is not going to end the way maybe you want it to. This is going to end. I'm going to maybe stop there.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Janelle has a question.
Okay.
Go ahead and turn your mic on and turn your camera on if you want. Go ahead and turn your mic on.
It's like what you're saying. It's the communication. I'm one that's all for oral sex both ways. I'm totally cool with that. But you got to communicate, because, like you said, like it's the taste, the smell, it's a whole lot, and then you. But it's the same thing with guys, and us women.
Yeah. Did we lose her?
I
there's days like we eat things that have to communication and, and setting boundaries. Like, hey, I will do this, but you have to let me know before you come so that it doesn't, that way, I don't have to do that, or I don't, just tell them I don't swallow. I mean, and I think that's where a lot of people, they don't know how to communicate that.
And I love that. I love how open you are with that, because I think that is something that is a topic that we don't discuss. That is a topic that if you went into a bishop or a stake president, they would like, I don't know how to deal with this. That's not what they discuss. And so you have to discuss that. Yeah. Are you gonna swallow? I like what you said. And I like how open you are with that, because I'm the same way.
But it came with years of practice. I mean, it came
Totally.
with, I have a lot of trauma from my childhood. And so I had some things I had to get over, but it really comes down to communication. And our bishops shouldn't be the person, hey, is it okay if I swallow or not? That's not the bishop's job, and that's
they really
I think
like,
it would cause a heart attack if you asked that question. There'd be a lot of coronaries like, oh.
It's funny,
my bishop right now is 20. My bishop right now is 28 years old, and we have a whole ward of divorced people. And
oh my gosh,
oh man, that guy is hating life.
And like he is, and he became the bishop right before COVID hit, and so I have no clue what's going on, but it's not a good thing. I mean, if you took that to him, his head would spin.
Well, and another question, I don't know if you guys did this. I was picking up a friend from the hospital and dropping her off, so I wasn't paying attention to half the conversation, but something that came to my mind is, when we are a single adults and we get into a relationship, or we're dating somebody and we mess around with them, I have found some people, some guys, because I only date guys. So some of these guys, they get weirded out and freaked out because you messed around. Oh my gosh, we messed around. And I'm like, okay, it just means that's great. We got chemistry, but it means that we need to set boundaries. We need to talk and have a little bit more communication, because apparently we didn't communicate enough, but some of these guys, they run away and they're like, oh my gosh, you're Satan. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Stop talking to my ex.
I'm just going to say that I need to be their bishop. I need to be their bishop and say, you know what, calm down. So,
I think my only concern, kind of circling back to this whole thing, is when one person is like, I want this, and the other person's like, well, me too. And they're like, nope, I want you to do this for me, but I'm not willing to do it for you. That's where I have the problem. It's not even so much. That's where I have the problem.
And I think
I really like it when
you
we're having sex, you
with that.
put your finger in my ear or something, right? Like something totally stupid. But if they're willing to, like, if they want something like that, but they're not willing to, do the same for you, that's when there's a problem. And to give you sort of disclaimer, this particular person, my friend, his marriage totally like ended after 18 years. He's just like, there was like this dysfunction, this kind of rift that just kind of kept growing and growing. And it eventually just was incompatibility, I guess, in his eyes. And they went their separate ways, and he's engaged and she's remarried, and, but it was a problem.
But that goes back to the communication and how vital it is, because I think in our culture, it's like,
we keep losing you.
oh darn it! I loved what she had to say.
I'm like,
too.
she's gone. But I was just gonna quickly say, like,
sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad, until I'm married now. Now I'm supposed to know everything. Oh. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Oh, I think you're back now.
You must be on the cell network instead of the Wi-Fi.
I was just saying that as singles,
right now.
Okay. There's a lag time too. I'm so sorry. But I was just going to say, as singles, I think that's what we are trying to get at, is that this discussion probably needs to happen, obviously, prior to getting into a serious relationship with somebody, because if y'all are on different ends of the spectrum when it comes to sex and what you're willing to do and not do, like you need to have that out in the open prior to getting into like an engagement or getting married or something like that.
Seriously, I think that we all have to have great communication and great sex. So let's come down to that.
All right. We have one more question. We've got Curtis. Come on, Curtis. Come on in.
Okay. It says you cannot start your video because your host has stopped it. Can you hear me?
Let me see if I can. I think I turned you off before because we were in the middle of somebody else. Let me
There we
see.
go.
Okay, there we go. Okay, cool.
All right.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say you guys are amazing to have this subject. At first, when I saw it, I'm like, oh, which dating site is this from? And it's like, oh my gosh, it's cool. But the thing that I wanted to say, my little words of advice is that women have sensitive parts on their body that men tend to ignore and think that just regular missionary sex is going to put a happy smile on her face. And that is not generally the case. And I watched a video once that said men are like microwaves, women are like ovens. And sometimes you have to let the woman warm up, and men don't have to do that. So those are the only two comments I had. But as far as the cleanliness thing, there's one guy that basically is a disabled client of mine. I also do disability representation for the Social Security. And he hadn't taken a shower in 9 days.
Oh.
Okay, laying in the same bed for 9 days. Okay. Now, do you think that the average lady in the world would want to get near him?
No.
I wouldn't. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I would, no way.
Yeah.
So I learned a new word recently, and you guys can look it up on your own, but it's called smegma. So,
I don't
yes,
know that.
Yeah, I know what that is.
okay.
I don't want to look that up.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
think
I
anyone
wanna
really
know.
wants to look that up.
No,
Yeah. Let's keep it clean, people. Let's keep it clean.
Fred's probably going to post like the definition in the chat. So just letting you guys know. But,
No, that's okay.
No, I think you're
Anyway.
right, Curtis. I think you're right, Curtis, that I always have this standing joke that some people don't get, but you might get it after tonight's discussion. But I always say that I'm a nice guy, and they always say, "What do you mean you're a nice guy?" I'm like, because nice guys always finish last. Come on.
Wow. Okay. Well, so let's go there. So my grandma, who is now
think that way, right? Guys should finish last.
Right.
You should always make sure everything is kosher and copacetic with the female, with your whoever you're with, and then you can have your finish moment.
Right. I was going to say my grandmother had the same thing. She said, always take care of your wife first, and then she will give you many happy memories.
Your grandma.
And then there's other. That my grandma said that
Go grandma.
before I was married. Yeah, go grandma.
Grandma,
I was like,
Some of us
rock
are
on, girl.
grandmas. Hey, some of us are grandmas. All right, so.
And then I do have one more comment, is that I'm trying to keep this really clean. I'm having a difficult time, but I'm challenged. Is that people are capable of having multiple happy moments in an evening. Sometimes they think, okay, I've had one, I'm done. That doesn't have to be the case.
No.
Anyone want to disagree with me?
No, I was just saying earlier, like I told my friend her daughter was getting married. I said, don't worry, he's 20 years old. He's going to recharge real quick. I said, let that first nervous one that lasts 5 seconds get done. Let him recharge, and then have the rest of the evening to have fun.
Well, I think that
Right,
I think it also depends on how long it lasts. I mean, like
True.
if you're having a night or you're having an hour. And so if you're having an hour, maybe it's not going to last as long. But maybe if you're having a night, oh yeah, it might last for both of you several times. And so I think that you have to allow that if you're going to allow the evening. If you're going to allow an hour, different. And so I think that a woman has to appreciate what a man is going through and what they have to go through to get to that phase. but I also think that a man has to appreciate what a woman is. And I think, again, it goes back to great communication. If you have great communication, if you have an hour or an evening, it's going to happen. So.
And one other comment is sometimes people don't think having a safe word is a good idea. I actually think it is, because at any time, one person can say, okay, I need to stop for a moment. And that is, I think that's a good choice.
Yeah,
Some people
I agree
say,
with that.
yeah, and don't make it a common word. That can be helpful.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was something I thought of.
Sorry, I was making myself laugh with an inappropriate comment. I was gonna be like, how do you say the safe word if you got a ball gag in your mouth? Sorry.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm not a fan of those things, but you can certainly role play and spice life up. You know, have her put on a nurse costume. I know many nurses, and they're like, my job is not sexy and fun. It is boring and disgusting. But, you know, the little fantasy we have in our minds is that all nurses are sexy and fun.
Only when they're giving you a sponge bath.
Well, thanks for your comments, Curtis. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great evening. This is very, very enlightening.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's you know, it's funny because I think the best way I've heard it put before was that guys were geared to biologically procreate. So if you had let's say there's one guy and 100 women, and that's all that was left on planet Earth, you could have 100 babies at the same time and procreate pretty quickly. If you had one woman and 100 guys, and that's all that was left on planet Earth, you would still only have one baby at a time. So there's like this biological, like, you are able to go out and just procreate. And obviously we understand that we have to rein that in. It's one person, that's where the focus is. But I think in a way, when women are always like, gosh, why are guys always wanting sex? Why do you guys feel like they always have to have that? It's like, well, in a way, it's almost like we're hardwired for that, you know?
You know, and I mean, I agree and I disagree. And I think that guys are hardwired that way, but I think that women can be that way too. If they experience it in the right way, they're going to want it just as much. It's not going to be just one way. And I think that that's where I'm coming from is, I'm sorry, but I've been married to somebody that, the chemistry was there. It was amazing. And then I was married to somebody that was like, thought he was experienced. I'm like, you're a dud. And so, and that's where the women, when you know what's out there, or you know what's in it for you, I mean, it's just as good. It's just as good. Like I would argue, any guy at this point in my life that would want more sex than I would. And that is only because of my experience, my good experience in the past. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I don't have, well, I'm not married right now, but I'm grateful that I don't live in, oh my gosh, I'm glad that's not happening. No, I'm glad that I'm like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was so amazing. And so
does that make it even harder for you then, knowing that he's now married to somebody else? You're like, that was mine, that was my amazing partner and all of these sort of things. And now that's not a part of me and him, it's he and, you know, somebody else. That's got to be tough for.
Actually.
Did I just pour something on a wound?
Actually, it doesn't, because I mean, this is bad, but she's never going to be as good as me. So I'm just going to say it like that. So
just own it.
I'm going to so own it on every level. So I'm so good with it.
That's awesome. Be confident.
So we have a couple, let's see.
We have Skip. Skip has raised his hand again.
Skip's got all kinds of questions for
all right,
like, whoa, this is a good topic for me.
Okay, so I'm just curious since you brought it up so many times, but how did that all transpire that he married his mission companion's wife, your guys' friends? Was that happening before your marriage ended? Did that happen after the marriage?
Actually what happened, and again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt as well, is that our marriage was already on its way out. And so but then he started having communications, not a physical, but an emotional connection there. And it was his best friend, and it was his mission companion. And again, this is no secret between any of us or our family. And so I'm not selling him out. What?
Was there a marriage on the rocks then already?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Okay. Oh my gosh, Skip, you're going to ask some really detailed questions.
I know, Skip's like digging in, like throw him under the bus. Come on.
Oh, no, you're totally fine.
Like,
so, you know what?
little sprinkles out there and not expect us to like.
And you're totally fine. And that's why I'm here, is I'm so happy to answer all those questions. Is we went to a marriage counselor at the same time that they were going to a marriage counselor. Well, at the 4th of the 5 counseling sessions that we had to go through mediation, the counselor came on to me, and there was a lot of sexual stuff that happened. And I was like, no way, I'm not doing this. And so I stepped back. And so we had to go the divorce route. We had to go through attorneys. And so they went on his side through the mediator. They didn't have the same experience. And so he ended up, there were a lot of things because of the Ponzi scheme that were happening with our marriage. And the person that he's married to now listened to some of the false stuff that was going on, and I knew the truth. I was not listening to that anymore. And again, there was a lot of other things going on. That's a whole 10 other podcasts. But I'm just going to say that in the end, yeah, we ended up going through divorce attorneys. They went through a mediator, the one that we were going through, and got divorced around the same time. And then he thought maybe we would work through our marriage. And I said, no way, because we were both really damaged at that time and we had to heal. And so we kind of went our separate ways, or together ways, separate ways at the same time. And he got married 4 months after we got divorced.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So
that's fast. Oh, okay.
Thanks, Skip.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of running a little long here. Jennifer, we could literally probably stay on for hours talking about this. And,
really?
I just I kind of want to wrap it up here, and there's a question that I keep thinking about throughout this whole thing is, now that you've been through this whole experience, what are you looking for in a guy? We've talked about having that sex talk when that's appropriate, etc. What are you looking for now that you're kind of out there single again, kind of trying to, move on?
I'm looking for somebody that I am so open with, that is kind of running down the same lane that I am, that we can be open no matter what. At this stage of life, there is going to be baggage on either side. And whether it be kids, whether it be marriages, whether it be, and for me, it's about great communication. It's about, and I think that to wrap that all up it's great sex at the same time. If there's not great chemistry, I'm not going to die tomorrow. I'm sorry, but I'm not done having sex. I'm not done with that part of my life. I'm not, and I'm going to totally admit it. And so I just want somebody that I'm on the same page with, and that, my kids are almost gone because I had them so young. My kids are almost gone, and I have great kids. And to a lot of a lot of people probably a pretty easy family in terms of they're very independent. I don't have any like super problem kids or anything like that. And so I just want somebody that I'm on the same page with and that I can communicate with. And I'm not looking for somebody at this point to, and I know, I mean, and it might be different around the country, but I know a lot of times in Utah, I find single women that are looking for men that are trying to take care of them. I'm not looking for somebody. I'm totally happy to meet somebody halfway. I'm totally happy to communicate. I'm totally happy to be an equal partner and meet them halfway and love their kids like my own. But my heavens, there better be great sex.
You're going to be packing a whole bunch of those blue pills on your honeymoon night, right?
Oh, you know what? And you know what? Bring on the blue pills. I don't care about the blue pills.
Hey,
Bring
some of us
on the
don't
blue
need them,
pills.
all right? Just saying.
Yeah.
Some of us don't need them.
Yeah.
I'll say this though, like in my marriage, she liked me to take those because she's like, you can feel a difference. There's like, there's harder than there's like rock hard. And
well, they're supercharged, right?
Yeah.
You know what, Everett? I love that you totally opened up to that because it's true. Because in my second marriage, oh my gosh, I was like, let's get the blue pill. Let's get it going. Mm-hmm. And I get it.
It's not always about needing them. It's sometimes like, hey, they're just a lot of fun.
Did you ever see the movie This Is 40? Like, did you ever see the movie This Is 40? And it's
I think so. That with like Paul Rudd or
Paul Rudd. Yeah. So he's in the shower. It's like it's his birthday or his wife's birthday. And so he borrows a blue pill from his friend. And she was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. He's like, yeah, I took this blue pill. Wasn't it amazing? And then she got totally offended. She's like, what? I can't get you hard? Like she was like totally offended by it. But it was a very
interesting. I really feel like
don't be offended.
It does not matter about if you can get somebody hard. It's a matter that it doesn't happen. So take the darn blue pill and let's do it. Come on.
Have the conversation. If you need a pill.
Exactly. Have the conversation.
Let the person know.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a little older and he's kind of, well, he's Seventh-day Adventist and he's a great guy, salt of the earth. But they're very, very particular about what they put in their bodies, like their diet and everything. When I got divorced, I was like, well, I got these little blue pills. I'm like, hey, man, try one of these. He's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm like, no. Look, it's not going to give you a freaking heart attack. It's not going to make you grow a third limb or something crazy like that. Right. Just try one. Let me know what you think. Literally after that, he's like, dude, how can I get more of those? I'm like, you can have them. It's not like I got a use for them right now, you know?
Amen. Yeah.
And now he just orders them from India and they just come in and like,
there you go.
A little blue pill. And now it's basically like, hey, can you get me some more of those? Like, dude, I'm not your drug dealer. Like, come on. I hooked him up. He goes and gets his own site, but they are, you know, it's not always about like, I can't do this. I can't get it up.
No,
sometimes
it's not.
Like, these things are just, they work great and they're a lot of fun. So,
and you know what they do, and I mean, back to where Corey and I have connected is that it's about communication and it's about what works for both of you. If you have to take 1 or 2 blue pills, go for it. You know, it's about great communication, and it's not about you going to take one on the sly. It's about, no, I'm going to take one because we're going to have a great night tonight. And so it's not, I'm all for it.
And hey, and if you need toys, you know, if you're not willing to leave the blue pill, go grab some toys.
Seriously, Corey, I think the toys is part of the after party.
Okay, let's get to the after party.
After party. We'll get people there.
Okay, well, speaking of the after party, that's a great segue. I just want to say how much I appreciate you being on the show tonight and being willing to talk about this subject. Jennifer, you have such great insight into all of this stuff. We will definitely have you on again if you are willing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You are fantastic. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say to everybody out in the audience, if you get a chance, please give us a thumbs up. Give us a like on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. We're really trying to grow the podcast. We would love your support. And having said that, we'll go ahead and end the recording now and let everybody open up their cameras and mics for the after party. And this is sort of our free for all.
Please do.
Free for all, yeah.
Yeah.
Bring it on.